Hey guys, I need more light on me. It's fine. Should I even have that on? Do you notice the lights? They're going off now.
For some reason, it was really difficult for me to turn off that light.
Because that's just too much work.
It honestly really wasn't, and sure, it looked kind of bad when I was filming, but as I'm looking back at the clips, it would have been a lot cooler if I had that underlying blue light. I don't know, I'm kind of dumb.
I feel kind of scandalous in this right now. I notice the videos of mine that get the most traction are either the videos where I talk about it and Stranger Things, or when I do videos of my outfits. And I notice it's usually the videos where it's just my body. Which makes me feel very secure. So today we're gonna talk about Stranger Things. And I'm wearing something semi-scandalous. I'm kidding.
I hope you guys know I'm kidding, because if you didn't know, I don't want to be cancelled because of this. I just felt like wearing this top, and it is a little too much. Whoops.
But today we are going to talk about Stranger Things. I had asked on my Instagram a while back, what ships do you guys want me to talk about from it and Stranger Things? And I'm basically going to give you like my run through every single ship, because I'm pretty sure this is like every single common ship that isn't like, you know, something gross. Try my best to go through all of these in a shorter amount of time. You know, not like an overanalyzation. It's not like my Herring Grove. I really liked that video, first of all. I'm really sad that for some reason YouTube has disabled the comments.
Now, I've tried to figure this out for a while as to why my comments why that video, the comments got disabled, and one of the only explanations I can even fathom is that at that time that I made that video, it was when there was that whole controversy with YouTube where they were no longer monetizing videos that weren't quote-unquote ad-friendly when it was talking about LGBT issues. Well, like, just things in relation to that, which was terrible. So maybe that's it, but I also don't know why my Ready is Real video didn't get busted for that, or my Will Byers video.
But I'm really proud of that video, so watch it. If I remember, I'll put like a little eye right here. Oh, who is she? I don't know. Also, these are fake. You can roast me in the comments below.
Claudia, we are already like 3 minutes into this video. Can you please start? Jesus frickin' Christ.
Oh, and I also did a whole video talking about Will Byers being gay. If you also want to check out that video, I'll try to remember to link it here also in the eye thing. So you kind of will already realize my standpoints on things. I believe that Will Byers is gay. It's suggestion at this point, which I think is totally fair because he is a child. It is totally fair to say that he, you know, hasn't completely come to terms with his sexuality, because from what we've seen of him, he was in the Upside Down, or he was being possessed by a upside down thing. But what I'm hoping to see in the latest season, because they are saying that they are going to give Will a break, which sounds awesome. What I'm hoping to see in this season is that he comes more into terms with his sexual. Sorry, my mom called me about food and I gave her a full order of snacks to get me, and I'm so excited. But hopefully it comes more into terms. But I'm going to talk more about that at the end of this video because I do have a little bit. I'm going to talk about Maleven and Byler. Those are the real hot topics, I think. I want to save it to the end, you know? To just keep you guessing. I want to preface this video with saying that these are children. I am not talking about these kids in a sexual manner. Sure, I am talking about relationships they are in, but I am not saying that these relationships are set in stone. I feel like a big thing that I see with the Stranger Things community is it is a lot of children, which I don't think is necessarily wrong. I think kids can definitely be at the forefront of a fandom. But to the younger kids who are watching and enjoying Stranger Things, I think they can't always assume that 100% The relationship has to be the way it is. They can change, they can grow, they can break up, they can grow apart, they can grow together. I really don't care personally. I'm just gonna talk about fundamentally why I think certain relationships in the show work and some don't, and why. So, Lumax. That's Lucas. Hey, if Caleb McLaughlin is watching this video, which he probably isn't, but if he is, we're the same age and I really want to go out with you. I love them. I do. I think they're great. It's obviously a different diversion because in the beginning of season 1, Lucas was not accepting of this new member in the group, and Mike was. And then we see the complete opposite in season 2 happening, because Lucas has learned from Eleven to be much more of an accepting individual, therefore accepting Max into the group, while Mike, still being kind of scared and sad from all the events of season 1, he doesn't accept her right away. He's actually very mean to her for pretty much most of the season. So it's kind of interesting to see that diversion, and they really become the ones that I ship more. Like, I would argue that I ship Lumax more than I ship Eleven. But I don't want either of the characters to be merely defined by their relationship. I think a big problem with both of their characters fundamentally is that Lucas is the token black kid, and Max is the girl with an abusive father. These are two extremely common tropes that we see far too often. And there's not anything necessarily wrong with it in the story. I don't think that they are completely pigeonholed as these characters, but I am saying I don't want their characters to just be ended off as, oh, look how cute they are, they both have their problems. I want them to grow, and I want them both to be full-fledged characters. I think I say this a little bit more with Max in mind. We saw a lot of her growth in the second season, but let's be real here. She was really just put in the story to be there for Lucas and to create a love triangle between Lucas and Dustin and Max. So I don't want her, more specifically, to be completely defined by her relationship to Lucas.
I forgot to mention, but why I brought up the abusive father bit is that a lot of the time with female characters, their character arc comes from men in their lives, and more specifically, men who abuse them, who wrong them. And I don't want Max's character to solely be based off of her having an avenge arc for standing up for herself after all the men in her life who abuse her, and etc. It's just a really tired trope at this point, and I think that's the majority of my problem with it.
I would be totally fine if they broke it up. And that sounds scandalous, but I think if anything, that's good. Because I know that Max would be strong, Max and Lucas would be strong. Now, in comparison to Dustin and Max, I think a big thing that the show wants us to think about, and I got a lot of the inspiration for this part from Screen Prism's video, even though they didn't explicitly mention it, and how basically the way that they've beaten the odds, thinking like a kid to defeat the monster. Relationships in the show are often shown to be very, very caring. When relationships get started, and they are ones that are going to last, it is often between two people who think of the other person before they think of themselves, which is often a thing associated with children and often associated with kids growing up and realizing that very common tool. But in relationships that don't last, like Steve and Nancy, or where one doesn't really care for the other. For Dustin and Max, Dustin really only wants to date her because he wants to have a girlfriend. It's because he wants to win the prize. While Lucas is genuinely concerned about Max and he wants to help her. While when he hears her story, they genuinely connect in a way. this is when he starts to genuinely care about her. And that's really the core difference. So I just personally think that Dustin is trying to be an adult, and he is trying to get girls in this way that is emotionally immature, yet is him trying to act like an adult. Meanwhile, the relationships that last, like Maleven, are the relationships where they care about the little things. And it's sweet and it's pure. Speaking of which, let's talk about Jancy. Jonathan and Nancy. They're fine. They're absolutely alright. I really don't care about them, which kind of sucks because I think they could be really cool. Like a cool, like, you know, crime-fighting duo, which I totally think they're trying to do, but it kind of ends up not working. I've seen a lot of people make the argument online where Stranger Things is trying to kind of diverge in the different sections of 1980s film genres, where we see the kid adventure, following the kids, obviously, adult conspiracy, like, you know, them trying to debunk the government or whatever. The teenagers, we see a teen drama-esque thing, like a teen psychodrama, like Scream or Heathers, like that kind of mold. And honestly, that's my favorite kind of genre ever. Teens in high school, murder, death. I love that. But they don't do a good enough job, and that's the problem. I think they were really cool in season 1. Like, I think one bit that I genuinely think about a lot when I think about Stranger Things and how much I love it is the character of Nancy, especially in season 1, and almost completely in season 1. When she's in season 1, she's a girl who wants to break away from the mold of her family. She wants to have sex, and she wants to go to parties and drink. Meanwhile, this is not fundamentally who she is, and Jonathan points out to her that this is exactly what every girl in their town does. They don't want to be like their mothers, so they date the first guy that they meet, they have sex, get knocked up, and they end up marrying that guy and having a loveless marriage at the end of the street. He becomes an accountant and she becomes a stay-at-home mom. And this is exactly what her mother is. And I found that really interesting and almost thought-provoking in a way where it kind of showed Nancy that the only way for her to not be like her mother and to get out of this town's mold is challenge herself and is to start her own adventure completely different than the adventures we've seen before. But with it, I think that Jonathan is insanely creepy. I'm sorry to anyone who finds him attractive. But why? I remember I was watching season 2 with my mom and she was like, that Jonathan boy is very cute. And I was like, what? No, my mom is entitled to her own opinion, but I was like, I like that one, and I showed her Steve, because Steve could slit my throat and spit on my face, and I thank him. But my mom said, oh, he's attractive in an obvious way, which I think is insanely funny. The Duffer Brothers kind of wanted to make him a self-insert character, because they've described a lot themselves that they were huge nerds. They liked photography and they liked, you know, doing things merely like sitting on the roof of their car at lunch instead of actually hanging out with other people. I think the creators of the show really relate to Jonathan, and they wanted the audience of weird nerd guys to relate to it too. If this came out in the 80s, I think a lot of people would have liked Jonathan more. But sadly, we're in a new generation where fighting for the underdog is a completely different meaning than it was then. People's quirks weren't necessarily them taking pictures of naked girls out of their window when they're about to have sex with a guy. And by the way, he never apologized for that, like actually. He said, I'm sorry, but you to see who you really were, not that girl you're faking to be, which is a load of bullshit, if I do say so myself. We like people like Steve. We like people who, yes, have mistakes, but they grow from them and they nurture the people around them instead of shutting themselves off. The cynical type of character isn't as popular anymore because we're in a generation of people who are done being cynics and are trying to make a new life for ourselves. We want to see the jock whose life got completely trashed become a new bright individual who is helpful and helps children. And also, not to mention, I think the Duffer Brothers completely didn't want this to happen, because it was said that Steve was gonna die in season 1. That was their main plan all along, but so many people liked him that they decided to keep him, which must have been hilarious, because they were probably the whole time being like, oh, we have to keep him? Are you sure you guys don't want, like, you know, some more Jonathan? You guys like Jonathan? And everyone was like, no one really cared about Jonathan that much. And they were like, God damn it, I guess we'll bring the jock back. But the thing is, I don't ship Steve and Nancy. I don't ship them at all. I think fundamentally Jonathan and Nancy are better suited off. They are partners. They are individuals together. I don't think Steve really challenges Nancy in any way, and he brings the life that she doesn't want. Sponsored. This is sponsored. This cookie here? Jopper is a slow burn, and Canon, what else do I really have to say? They're the only adults. They're gonna end up together. Come on. Don't be stupid. Next, we're gonna talk about Max, which is 11 and Max. They've never really talked. We only had the scene where, like, she was like, I'm Max, nice to meet you. And then she was like, oh, get out of the way. You know that old conspiracy theory that old iPhones, whenever a new iPhone comes out, it like completely busts up? I swear to God that's an actual thing, because my phone has been slowly killing me for the past couple of days now. I don't want feminist icon Maleven to be mean and or hateful to Max. 11 really doesn't have any females in her life. She only has a dad. Joyce is nice to her. And her whole life she's been around male scientists, pretty much. I don't want her to not be nice to Max, and I want Max to be her friend, and I want them to be best friends and hang out by the pool and be cool, and like Max teaches her how to skateboard and stuff. Platonically, I think Max is a great idea. Do I think they're gonna have a romantic thing? No, probably not. Like, maybe it could work. I could see in like a general sense as to how they could work, but I first would like them to be friends. Mad Wheeler. Mad Wheeler was also a hot topic in my Q&A that day. I feel like if they were an actual couple, they'd be that couple that like would fight all the time and then like be really, really lovey-dovey and then go fight. They're too similar. They're both really strong-headed and they both have a strong sense of caring, and I personally don't think that I ship it. Also, why would you do that to my boy Lucas? It's actually like, I saw a video where Millie Bobby Brown, she was asked about Mad Wheeler and she was like, no, I feel like a jealous girlfriend. Why would you do that? I'm 11 all the way. And I'm like, true. Okay, speaking of 11, that's what we're talking about next. And we're gonna talk about Byler probably coinciding with it. Now, at the beginning of this video, I talked about how I don't view these relationships as set in stone. I wouldn't be heartbroken if Lou Max broke up. I wouldn't be heartbroken if Jancy broke up. I really don't care, because I like all these individual characters. And the thing is they're all children. They're all young, and they deserve to have time to grow beyond the point of where they are right now. And if that means breaking up, getting back together, finding new love, I'm for it. I think Maleven is incredibly sweet. I think it is a very sweet and pure kind of romance. And it's very reminiscent of a lot of movies in the 1980s. Now, obviously no movie did this exactly, but I think right away of E.T. Was the boy in love with the alien? No. But did he love the alien? Yes. It's the kind of relationship that you see you see this other being that is in danger and you want to protect them. And through that, you kind of develop having this emotional connection to them. But with that, we have to acknowledge that 11 is a girl. She is a young girl, and she doesn't really know what a relationship is. She isn't fully understanding of the human world. Pop Culture Detective did a really good video called Born Sexy Yesterday. My lips are chapped. How it's a trope that has been found a lot in science fiction films and movies and stuff, where we see a female who comes into the story who doesn't know anything about the human world. She's basically like reborn. Like we could say like, for example, like Fifth Element, Age of Ultron, Splash, like any movie where it's a girl who doesn't understand the human world and she comes into it with the aid of the male protagonist, and he basically shows her everything about this new world and they fall in love. She also just so happens to be a full-fledged adult woman in a full-fledged adult body. And that almost acts like consent in the story. Because if you watch Fifth Element, which is a really great movie, but nonetheless, if you watch Fifth Element, she's essentially a child. She is essentially, like, if you want to be gross, a newborn baby who doesn't know anything about this world, yet she is incredibly good at fighting, and that kind of stuff. And she is immediately thrown into a relationship, basically, with Bruce Willis. Now, sure, she definitely likes him, and she definitely wants to date him, but she hasn't experienced anything else to tell her otherwise. She hasn't experienced a life. All she knows is what Bruce Willis has told her. And that's kind of messed up. That's grooming. Now, obviously, it's different because they are both kids, so that can't happen. And obviously, it's a lot more good-natured. Like, Hopper is still very, protective over her. But, nonetheless, she has already committed to a full 1.5 year relationship with this boy, and she doesn't know anything about the world. Meanwhile, Mike is a boy who gets bullied at school. No one really likes him, and then he meets this girl who doesn't know anything about who he is, doesn't know how popular he is in school, doesn't know anything about that. All she knows of him is he's the sweet boy who saved her in the woods. And it's a little messed up. So what I would love to see in the newest season is, I don't think necessarily Maleven has to break up. I don't think they're inherently a wrong couple. I still personally think they're incredibly sweet, incredibly pure and nice, and I still would really like to see what their relationship will do in the future. But more importantly, I'd love to see what 11 will do in the future. I want her to become a woman of society. And whether that be with Mike, or whether that not be with Mike, I don't care. But I don't want her to just stop and just become Mike's girlfriend. Because if that happened, that would totally suck. Now, Byler. Byler. Well, I touched briefly on my opinion of Byler in my Will Byers' gay video, but it's not gonna happen, and that really sucks. One thing that I would be interested in happening is if there was a love triangle between 11, Mike, and Will. Now, clearly Mike likes injured people, because he obviously takes a liking to 11 when they first meet, and then he cares for Will the whole time. So it would be kind of interesting if he developed a very close bond with both of them, and he started to kind of have romantic feelings. I think he would ultimately turn to 11, because I think he has just much more of a connection with her. Now, this is where we get a little tea-ish. Not a lot of people agree with my opinion on this subject, but oh well, we're gonna talk about it anyway. I don't want Will to just be given the rejects of 11. Will and 11 are such similar characters. I don't want them to have the exact same boy too. I believe that Will deserves a love story that is out of his illness, that is out of his broken phase. Basically, most of the things that I said about 11, I would say the same things about Will. And I don't like that for this story. I want Will have a crush on a boy and to realize his sexuality in his own way. Yes, maybe Mike is a factor in it. Maybe he starts to have feelings for him, but when he realizes they're never gonna happen, he grows from that and he becomes much more accepting of himself, and maybe someone else comes along. Personally, my vote is that they bring Olaf, however, I'm so sorry, into season 3, even though I know they won't because they have already finished filming season 3, so... And he becomes Will's love interest. That would be so good. Personally, I don't have a lot of faith in the Duffer Brothers. From what I've seen, they are not the nicest to their crew, which always leaves a bad taste in my mouth. As someone who does want to work in film and TV and like theater and stuff, and will definitely be a crew member one day, when I see like that, like people treat their crew like shit, that always makes me like just not happy. Really haven't suggested Will's sexuality straight on, even though it is in his character description. Netflix is so accepting of LGBT representation. They, I would argue, have been very good in this way. Netflix has done a lot of bad things. Netflix is single-handedly ruining the entertainment industry. But what they're good at, what they've been okay at, I'm not going to put them on a pedestal here, but what they've been okay at is LGBT representation. And Stranger Things kicked off Netflix. Without Stranger Things, I don't think Netflix would be nearly as successful as it is now. Stranger Things made Netflix. But with that, I'd have to say that there is no excuse for there not to be more LGBT representation in the show.
I'm going to preface this part by saying that, by all means, they don't have to force LGBT relationships upon their viewers, but I'm just saying they don't have to queerbait Will. They literally don't have to.
I don't want any arguments either that it's the 80s, it can't happen. It can most certainly happen. Sure, I would love to not have Stranger Things turn into Will getting beat up because he's gay, the show. But the thing is it's a fantastical world that doesn't exist. So just let Will be happy and let him be gay. I don't think that's completely crazy, personally. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Thank you for watching this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I kind of miss doing videos like this. I felt a lot like I was speaking from my heart, and I really like doing stuff like that. A lot of people have asked me online about what I hope to happen in season 3 of Stranger Things. I have absolutely no hopes, and I hope that's how you guys go into it too. I think the minute you go into a project with high expectations, that's the minute you will be let down. But these are a couple of them, I guess, because I talked about like what I want the relationships to kind of do in the new season. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and leave a comment telling me your opinions on the ships I talked about today. I genuinely like reading your guys' comments, unless your comment is like, hey, Bye!